At 6:05 in Shillong, the capital of Meghalaya, a woman opens her market stall in the covered bazaar before the morning crowd arrives. The stall belongs to her. It belonged to her mother. Her brother helped carry the stock this morning. He does not own any of it. He knows this. He carried the stock anyway, because she is his sister, and the market opens early and there was work to be done, and the ownership question and the work question are two separate questions that have never needed to interfere with each other. At 7:50 in a village in the East Khasi Hills, a young couple moves into a house. The house belongs to the woman's family. The husband has brought his clothes, his tools, and a cooking pot. He has not brought a deed because there is no deed in his name to bring. He has brought himself, which is what was asked of him, and which is, in the Khasi understanding of what a marriage requires, enough. By 9 in the same hills, a grandmother sits on the veranda of a wooden house watching her youngest daughter's children play in the yard. The house will pass to the youngest daughter when the time comes. The grandmother's sons built careers elsewhere. One is in Guwahati, one is in Delhi. They call on Sundays. The house was never going to be theirs, and they built their lives accordingly, in the way that people build lives when the shape of the available options is clear from childhood. This is Meghalaya, a state of 3.3 million people in the hills of northeast India, one of the wettest places on earth, where clouds sit on the valleys for months and the rivers run dark with rain. The Khasi people number roughly 1 million of those 3.3 million. In their system, the family name passes through the mother, the property passes through the youngest daughter, and a son leaves the house he grew up in when he marries. He leaves without bitterness in most cases. He was raised knowing the door would eventually face a different direction for him. The leaving was always part of the plan. What follows is daily life in a society running an inheritance system the rest of the world is only now beginning to argue about, except the Khasi are arguing about it from the other direction. The Khasi are not the only matrilineal people in India. The Gara of Meghalaya follow a similar system. The Nayar of Kerala maintained matrilineal inheritance through much of the 20th century before legal reform dismantled it, a dismantling that some Nayar women, in retrospect, describe as a loss they were not consulted about. But the Khasi have maintained the system with greater continuity than most, and in a state that is otherwise surrounded by patrilineal cultures, their arrangement has the quality of a long-running experiment in which the results are still being read, still being contested, and still, despite everything, continuing. The Khasi clan is called the Iying. Every Khasi person belongs to their mother's Iying. The Iying name is the name a child carries through life. It is the name on the inheritance. It is the name on the obligation. It determines who they can marry, marriage within the same Iying is forbidden, and it determines what they can inherit. A child who does not know their Iying does not know where they stand in the world, in the specific way that the Khasi world is organised. The Iying is the address of the self. Ancestral property, land, the family house, accumulated clan wealth, passes through the female line. At its narrowest point, it passes to the youngest daughter. She's called the Khadduh, the keeper of the hearth. The word is practical before it is poetic. Someone has to keep the hearth. The Khadi is the answer to that question, written into the inheritance before the question is even asked. The logic behind the youngest rather than the oldest is the logic of time. The eldest daughters marry first and establish themselves in their own households earlier. The youngest is most likely still in the parental home when the parents age. She is already there. The property follows the presence. This is not sentiment, it is engineering, a social arrangement designed to solve a specific problem, namely who will be in the house when the house needs someone in it. The Khadduh inherits the house and the ancestral land. She also inherits the responsibility. When the parents grow old, the Khadduh cares for them. When they can no longer manage the house, she manages it. When they can no longer manage themselves, she manages that too, the meals, the medicine, the slow, difficult work of watching someone diminish and remaining steady while it happens. When the parents die, the Khadduh conducts the rituals. The bones of the ancestors, the Khasi keep the bones of their dead in clan ossuaries, are under her guardianship. The continuity of the Iying runs through her hands, which means the continuity of the dead runs through her hands as well as the continuity of the living. The inheritance is not a windfall, it is a contract. A Khadduh who neglects her parents can face clan censure. The property comes with obligations attached that are understood before the property is received. Everyone in the family understands what the Khadduh is receiving and what she's giving for it. There is no confusion about this. The transaction is old enough that its terms are memorized by every member of the Iying before they are old enough to act on them. An elder Khasi woman in a village outside Shillong describing the Khadduh system does not describe it primarily as a property arrangement. She describes it as an answer to a question every family eventually faces: who will be there at the end? Not who loves the parents most, not who deserves the land most. Who will be there? The Khadduh system answered that question in advance by tying the inheritance to the presence. The land goes to the woman who stays. The staying is the price. The staying is also the point. The older daughters are not excluded from all inheritance. Movable property, jewellery, household goods, personal savings can be distributed among all daughters. Sons can receive property their father earned during his lifetime, if the father chooses to give it. What sons do not receive is the ancestral clan land and the family house. That line is held. It has been held for longer than anyone alive can remember it not being held, which is the deepest kind of holding there is. A child born into a Khasi family carries the mother's name from birth. The father's name does not pass to the child in the matrilineal sense. A child knows who their father is. The father is present and involved. He is at the table and in the yard and at the school gate. But in the genealogical record that matters, the record of clan membership, inheritance rights, and ritual obligation, the father's line does not appear. He is present in every practical sense, and absent in the one structural sense the society treats as definitive. The father is from a different Ying. He married into this household. His children belong to his wife's Ying, not his. His own Ying, his mother's clan, will pass through his sister's children, not through his own. His children are the future of his wife's line. His sister's children are the future of his. He tends both, but they are not the same. A Khasi man in his 40s with 3 children is, in the deepest structural sense, raising members of his wife's clan. He feeds them, worries about them, sits up with them when they are sick, argues with them when they are teenagers, and loves them with the ordinary, relentless love of a parent. And none of that changes the fact that in the account the Ying keeps, these children are not his line's future. His line's future is in his sister's house, in the children he visits on weekends and sends money to when he can. He holds both of these things at once. Most Khasi men have been holding both of them for so long that the holding no longer feels like effort. In practice, Khasi fathers are present and affectionate. The absence they experience is not emotional but legal and genealogical. A father cannot give his children his name in the matrilineal sense. He cannot leave them his mother's land. What he can give them is his time, his earnings, his presence in the house that belongs to his wife's family. For many Khasi men, this is sufficient. For some, it has begun to feel like less than sufficient, and that feeling has a political organisation now and a name. Many Khasi men describe this arrangement matter-of-factly. It is the water they have always swum in. The ones who describe it with difficulty are often those who have spent time in patrilineal cities, Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore, and returned to Meghalaya having learned to see the system from outside. The outside view is not necessarily the correct view, but it is a view that, once acquired, is difficult to fully set down. The men's movement in the Khasi Hills has a name, Singkong Rinpoche Thimai, loosely, the Organisation for Reforming the Family Structure. It was founded in the 1990s and has been arguing since that Khasi men have been systematically disadvantaged by the matrilineal system, that sons are raised in homes they cannot inherit, that husbands are guests in houses that will never be theirs, that fathers watch their children belong to a clan that excludes them. The argument is made with the vocabulary of rights, of fairness, of the equal treatment that democratic societies claim to guarantee. It is made by men who are not, for the most part, angry. They are making a legal argument. They are asking for the law to be changed. The movement's demands have centred on reforming inheritance law to give sons an equal share of ancestral property. It has petitioned the state government, organised public meetings, and generated a debate that the Khasi community has been having loudly for 3 decades. The debate has not been resolved. It has, if anything, become louder. Each generation of young Khasi men who spend time in cities and return comes back with a slightly sharper sense of the contrast between what they see elsewhere and what they come home to. The women's response has been equally organised and considerably less sympathetic. Women's groups in Meghalaya have argued that the matrilineal system provides women with the economic security and social standing that patrilineal systems routinely deny. A Khasi woman who owns land cannot be made destitute by a husband's departure or a family's decision to favour sons. The land is hers before the marriage and remains hers after it. It is hers if the marriage is happy and hers if the marriage is not. It is hers regardless of what the husband decides to do, which is the specific kind of security that women in patrilineal systems spend their lives negotiating for, and frequently do not achieve. Reforming the inheritance system, these groups argue, would not liberate Khasi men. It would expose Khasi women to the same vulnerabilities women face everywhere else. The vulnerability of a system that does not hold land in their names, that treats their inheritance as conditional on the goodwill of fathers and husbands, that leaves them with nothing certain when the goodwill runs out. They have watched what happens to women in those systems. They have relatives in those systems. They are not persuaded that the solution to Khasi men's grievance is to build the same system here. The Shillong market on a Wednesday morning is predominantly run by women. Khasi women have controlled the trade in the region's markets for as long as the market records go back. They sell vegetables, fish, dried goods, cloth and cooked food. They negotiate prices, extend informal credit, and manage their own accounts with the brisk competence of people who have been doing this their whole lives and whose mothers did it before them and whose daughters are already learning how at the edge of the stall. The market is not a symbol, it is a livelihood. A woman at her stall at 7 in the morning who has been there since 5 loading stock and setting prices is not performing matriarchal identity. She is working. She is tired in the particular way of someone who started early and will finish late, and has a list of things to do between now and then that does not get shorter as the day goes on. The work happens to be hers in a way that is backed by the structure of the society around it, but the structure does not carry the boxes. She carries the boxes. Her husband may be at home. He may be in a different city earning wages. He may be at a different stall in the same market. The point is not where he is. The point is that the stall is hers in a way that does not depend on his presence or his permission. It was hers yesterday and will be hers tomorrow, and the question of his whereabouts, while not unimportant to her personally, is not the question the stall depends on. In the hills above Shillong, a village council meets to discuss a land boundary. The disputed land is ancestral property. The disputing parties are 2 women from the same earring who interpret the inheritance differently. One says the land passed to her branch when a great-aunt died childless 30 years ago. The other says the great-aunt had a surviving daughter whose claim was overlooked at the time. Both women have been carrying this dispute for years. It has the settled weight of something that has been argued so many times it has worn grooves in the family. The council includes men. Male clan representatives sit on most Khasi councils, but the claim is between women and the land being disputed is women's land. The men in the room are there to witness and to speak to custom. The decision will favour one woman's interpretation of matrilineal descent. It will be the right woman's land when the meeting ends. That question, which woman, is genuinely contested. The question of whether it should be a woman's land at all is not on the agenda. That question was settled before anyone in the room was born. On an afternoon in the East Khasi Hills, the rain comes in from the west the way it does most afternoons, from June through September. It does not arrive gradually. It arrives the way the rain in Meghalaya always arrives, completely, immediately, as though it has been waiting just offshore and someone finally opened a door. Meghalaya receives some of the highest rainfall recorded anywhere on Earth. Cherrapunji, 60 kilometers from Shillong, held the world record for annual rainfall for most of the 20th century. The rain is not incidental to who the Khasi are. It shaped the agriculture, the architecture, the root bridges the Khasi built from living fig trees across rivers that flood every season, bridges that took decades to grow and will outlast everyone who tended them, and the inside life of a people who learned to organize themselves for months at a time in close quarters under the same roof. The roof, in the Khasi system, belongs to the woman. In a house in a village outside Mosinram, the youngest daughter is cooking for her parents and her own children. Her husband is fixing a fence in the yard, working in the rain with the resigned efficiency of a man who has accepted that fences do not care about the weather. Her older sister called this morning from Shillong. Her brother called last week from Guwahati. They ask about the parents. They cannot come this week. She tells them the parents are fine. She says it the way people say things that are mostly true. She does not say what the call costs her in the middle of a day that started before the rain and will end after it. The interruption, the performance of reassurance, the being the one who is there so that the ones who are not there can feel that someone is. The inheritance she will receive is real. The land is real. The house is real. The legal standing the Khadduh system gives her is real and has protected women in these hills from specific vulnerabilities that women in other systems know well. so is what she gives for it. Both things are true at the same time, in the same kitchen, on the same rainy afternoon. Across the hills, her brother is earning money in a city that belongs to a world where he can own land his children will inherit. He sends money home when he can. The house still belongs to his sister. Neither of them made this arrangement. They were born into it. They are living it forward as best they can, which is what every generation does with the system it inherits. Every system that places one side at the centre eventually hears from the side it displaced. The Khasi are now having that argument. They have been having it for 30 years, and it has not resolved, which does not mean it will not resolve eventually, only that the resolution, if it comes, will be slow and contested and will leave someone feeling that something was lost, because that is how these resolutions go. The men sitting in the offices of Singkong Rinpei Timmai in Shillong are not wrong that something is uneven. A son who cannot inherit his mother's land, a husband who cannot leave his children his family's property, a father whose name disappears from the genealogical record of his own children, these are real asymmetries. The discomfort is real. The argument deserves to be heard, and it is being heard loudly in every forum the Khasi have. The women organising against inheritance reform are not wrong that the unevenness has protected them in ways they cannot afford to lose. A woman who owns land before her marriage and after it, regardless of what the marriage becomes, has a specific kind of security that is difficult to value until it is gone. The Khasi women who argue for keeping the system are not arguing for their own comfort. They are arguing from the knowledge of what happens to women when the land is not theirs, knowledge that does not come from theory but from the relatives and neighbours and news from other states that arrives in Shillong every day. Both things are true in the same hills, in the same families, in the same houses that the rain falls on equally, regardless of whose name is on them. The rain does not check the title before it comes in through a leaking roof. The youngest daughter fixes the roof. The argument about whether that is just will still be going in the morning, because it is the kind of argument that does not end, it only moves from generation to generation, changing shape as the people who carry it change, never quite resolving, always worth having. The youngest daughter locks the house at night. It is hers to lock. She has known this since she was old enough to understand what locking a door means. Outside, the rain continues. The hills are dark and wet and very old. The house stands in them the way it has always stood, on land that belongs to the woman inside it, which is the oldest fact in these hills, and the most contested, and the one that has outlasted every prediction of its ending.